Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are LA.
Halos are in the Bay Area after basically splitting the 4-game set against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Tonight they begin a 3-game series here at the ODOT Coliseum against the A's. As we welcome you inside the Coliseum and back to Angels Baseball here on Fox Sports West, along with Mark Gubiza, I'm Victor Rojas. And over the last several weeks, matter of fact, over the last several months, we continue to talk about the Angels offense and looking for other guys, the continuation of the lineup outside of Trout and Pujols. And we had some unlikely heroes in yesterday's game.
Yeah, Victor, we had some good swings from, especially from our middle infielders yesterday. Take a look at our AT&T U-verse rewind yesterday. Taylor Featherston, an opportunity to get his first big league home run, and he did crush that ball to left center field. Got out of there quickly, got the silent treatment when he backed the dugout. Then Johnny Giavitelli in the same inning, he went yard to left center field himself over a 376 time, but Mike Trout continued to swing the bat exceptionally well. He has a triple there. He had a double in the game, a couple extra base hits for Mike Trout. He does have a couple home runs in his career versus Sonny Gray, and as good as Sonny Gray is, you need that long ball, and they did that yesterday. Hopefully a couple here tonight.
You hope that that momentum carries over, and today they have the daunting task, as you said, of facing Sonny Gray. 5 days ago, these two met. Sonny Gray, Matt Shoemaker. That's the pitching matchup tonight. Sit back and relax. We're going to bring you the lineups and the first pitch when we return. Angels Baseball is brought to you by CarMax. Start the search for your next car at CarMax. CarMax, start here. By Jack in the Box. Taste the new black pepper cheeseburger today, only at Jack in the Box. And by your Southern California Toyota dealers. Daco Coliseum here in Oakland, California. There was a lot of celebrating going on today, so pardon the excitement.
The Warrior
here.
Parade was fantastic around town.
Well covered and well attended. And no Game 7 tonight. next door. That's a good thing. That's a positive.
That's definitely the positive.
Hey, in today's game, we are participating in the Home Run Challenge today. Every Angels home run in this game raises $12,500 for prostate cancer research. You can make a pledge by going online to homerunchallenge.org. Yesterday, $25,000 was raised because of the Featherston and Giavotella home runs. A little different looking lineup tonight for Mike Scioscia, just trying to find the right mix of guys. And not only that, not just from a continuity standpoint, but facing Sonny Gray and trying to figure out Sonny Gray. Gray's thrown 3 fantastic games against the Angels.
Yeah, the interesting thing now for Sonny Gray, this will be the second time back-to-back games and starts against the Angels. Early in the year, April 22nd, 28 back-to-back starts. You figured at some point he would make some mistakes. He didn't. Last start out was against the Angels at the Big A. Next start back out again against the Angels here in Oakland. So you would think at this point the hitters would be more aggressive. I'm going to say it, more aggressive on his fastball.
I've got you down as saying more aggressive.
Yes.
Let's take a look at Mike Scioscia's starting lineup for the Halos tonight with a win yesterday, 34-33, still 5.5 back of the division-leading Houston Astros. Efren Navarro will lead things off, and he will play left field. Cole Calhoun in right, Mike Trout at center, Albert Pujols at first. David Freese at third base. Eric Guybar, the shortstop, had the day off yesterday. He's back in the lineup. Johnny Giavotella at second. Matt Joyce will bat eighth. He'll serve as the DH, and Chris Sinetta rounding out that starting 9. Taking on that 25-year-old right-hander. He's a native from Smyrna, Tennessee. Sonny Gray, 8-3 on the season.
Yeah, very good fastball, 91-96, curveball, slider, changeup, cut fastball. My go-tos against Sonny Gray. Just think fastball. Go after the fastball. Don't put yourself in counts where you have to deal with his secondary pitches. And this simple approaches. That means using the big part of the field. Don't try to swing too hard. Just make good, consistent contact against them.
Check out the defense for the Oakland Athletics this evening. Ben Zobrist in left, Billy Burns in center, Josh Reddick in right. The infield has Laurie, Simeon, Sogard, and Ike Davis just off the DL. He's back at first base. Stephen Vogt, the catcher.
And you mentioned Ike Davis getting that start. Just came back from Sabeless, a very good glove. Normally at first base for Oakland. 29 starts at first. Committed 2 errors so far this year. Very quick as far as his 3.63 double play, because we've seen him on the mound already this year. He's got a very good throwing arm.
That would be one of those things that would be good for the Angels if they saw Ike Davis on the mound.
We'd like to take a shot at him again.
Yeah, we've seen got a plethora of position players pitching in this last week with a lot of games kind of getting out of hand. As a matter of fact, Oakland had a game against the San Diego Padres in which they scored 16 runs. So we'll see how this plays out here tonight. Oakland at the bottom of the West at 11.5 games back. But you just never know with this team. They're 29-40 on the season. And just 12-19 here at the Coliseum, which is kind of odd. They always seem to play well here at home. That just hasn't translated. Granted, the pitching has been, the bullpen specifically, has been their biggest Achilles heel problem. Efren Navarro leading things off. Hitting 286 with 2 doubles, 3 runs batted in. Swings the first pitch. And Efren got the memo. It's no balls to strike.
Yeah, right away. And Mike Scioscia definitely wants these guys to be aggressive on a fastball, because that slider and curveball that Sonny Gray has is extremely difficult to make good contact against.
Hey, believe it or not, Efren Navarro has 6 plate appearances, batting in the number 1 spot. I believe that those 6 appearances, or plate appearances, have come as a late inning replacement. This would be, I got to double check this, his first start at a major league game, batting leadoff. That's the ground ball to second. Sogard to Davis. That's how this one starts off.
The Hyundai key for this game tonight. Earl Jackson. Swim, an inspirational song. And bottom line is, when you're up there against Sonny Gray, you have to have a plan. Do not go chasing anything out of the strike zone. Don't be going swimming for that slider or break a ball in the dirt. Get that fastball and make good contact.
Cole Calhoun steps up now. Hitting 269, had an 0 for 3 game yesterday with a couple of walks. 3 infielders on the right side with Cole up. The first one is in there for a strike. Chip Joyce barking out the balls and strikes. He's the crew chief. Craig Gibson at first. Chris Siegel at second. Marvin Hudson at third. The umpiring crew for this 3-game series. Good crowd expected tonight. Fireworks after the game. A little bit earlier start. This one's over the mound and towards second. Simeon has it. 2 outs. And because of the slightly earlier start, see the shadows starting to creep over the mound right now. Looks like the arm slot is still in the sunshine. The ball will travel into the shade.
Which any advantage you give Sonny Gray makes it even more difficult as a hitter going against Gray. Mike Trout does have 2 career home runs against him, but between Trout and Pujols combined, 8 for 44. That's a 182 batting average combined in their careers versus Sonny Gray.
Trout had a 2-hit game yesterday with a triple and a double. First triple of the year. Picked up his 40th RBI. Even 300 on the batting average. And it's 2 balls and no strikes. The last start for Sonny Gray against the Angels. He went 7 2/3. Gave up a run. It was unearned. 5 hits at 9 strikeouts and no walks through an even 100 pitches. 3-0. Pujols on deck.
If I'm Mike Trout right now, I get a fastball in my zone, I'm swinging green light. Even though Albert Pujols has been incredibly hot himself, this could be your best chance to crush a fastball.
Gray 1. 10th career appearance for Gray against the Angels. 9th start. 5-1 with a 2.11 ERA. Full count.
One thing I've noticed from Oakland against Trout of late, a lot of fastballs away. That's the adjustment the pitchers have made against Mike Trout. In the past, a lot of fastballs in. Now it's a lot of fastballs away.
See where Vogt is set up again. 3-2 is a called strike 3, and the Angels go down in order. Well, to the bottom of the first inning, Matt Shoemaker taking a mound for the Angels with no score. Bomel, Bob Melvin starting lineup for the Oakland Athletics. Game number 70 for them. Billy Burns, a speedster, leading things off in center. Stephen Vogt behind the plate. Ben Zobrist in left field. Josh Reddick, the cleanup hitter in right. Billy Butler, the DH. Ike Davis at first base. Brett Laurie at third. Eric Sogard at second. And Marcus Simeon batting ninth, playing shortstop. Taking on Matt Shoemaker, who was locked up with Sonny Gray on Sunday. And to be perfectly honest with you, threw the ball fairly well. The defense kind of let Shoemaker down, especially early in the game.
And no doubt. He's been locked up against some of the best pitchers in all of baseball his whole career. So look for him to go out and dominate the strike zone once again. I think the key, though, for Shoemaker is using that off-speed pitch. He has thrown 67% of his off-speed pitches for strikes. You need to throw your off-speed pitches for strikes against this Oakland club. They are a team that looks for the fastball and tries to get into fastball counts. Off-speed, very important for Shoemaker.
Burns with a 9-game hitting streak has the average at .315 with a couple of home runs and 13 runs batted in. There's a fastball for a strike. 0-2 count. Shoemaker in that start against Oakland. They have 4 runs, 3 earned, 6 hits, and 5 strikeouts, no walks. Worked 5 2/3. Chopper up the third base line. That goes foul, fortunately.
Yeah, we've seen that swing for Burns. He's just trying to put the ball in play. Just hit the ball on the ground, utilize that speed, which is a great decision by him. Force the defense to make a play against you. And with that speed as a defender, you're more apt to be even more aggressive and forced to throw a little bit earlier than you would want to.
Chopper. And Ibar comes in, plays a short hop, gets rid of it quickly. Still no play. Kind of surprised David Freese stopped on that ball.
Yeah, I think he has a better chance. And it looked like Eric called him off. Just trying to put the ball in play, and he's going over it, and then he stops. Although he might have been more off balance on his throw, better chance to have a stronger throw from Eric Ibar from that angle. But now you're dealing with speed right away. 13 stolen bases for Burns. He caught 3 times.
Here's Stephen Vogt, the catcher. .279 average, 12 home runs and 47 runs batted in.
I think as the game progresses, if I'm David Freese against Burns, I'm playing up no matter what the count is all the way through.
Especially from the left side of the plate. Why would you ever back up on a speedy guy?
Even with 2 strikes, doesn't matter. That's what he's trying to do, is just slap the ball that way.
It's like Burns leaning over there at first base, and they step off. Vogt's been slumping. Mentioned the .279 batting average. He's at just 154 in the month of June. 8 for 52.
Rounded into 4 double plays. Shoemaker with 1 pickoff this year. Has allowed 4 stolen bases in 7 attempts. Iannetta has thrown out just under 23% of would-be base stealers.
Pitch out, nothing's going on. Burns read it. Because it looked like he was going and then just slammed on the brakes.
Yeah, a little bit of a slide step from Shoemaker. Again, try to keep everything exactly the same. Good base runners will pick something up when a pitcher does something different, telling you that maybe a pitch out was on and that's why he stopped, because he was going.
Doesn't go, and that one's down low. 2 balls and no strikes. Mentioned Vogt has struggled in the month of June, but he has been very good throughout the year in this ballpark. His home road splits are ridiculous. .330 here at the Coliseum, .239 out of the road.
Which generally you think this ballpark is not a great hitter's yard, more of a pitcher's yard, especially with all the foul territory.
Burns takes off. The pitch is inside. Iannetta can't handle it. And it's a stolen base. Burns had a good jump from first. And a 3-0 count on Vogt.
A big jump for Burns. Very quick. Couldn't get the handle of the baseball in the transfer for Chris Iannetta. And Eric Ibar tried to sell that the throw was high over his head.
there's a 4-pitch walk. So 2 on and nobody out, and Zobrist coming up. Defensively for the Angels, after Navarro in left field, Mike Trout at center, Cole Calhoun in right. The infield is David Freese, Eric Ibar, Johnny Giavatelli, and Albert Pujols from third to first with Iannetta behind the plate.
Eric Ibar back at shortstop, got the day off yesterday. So this situation right here now for Matt Shoemaker. Love that ground ball double play. 7 errors this year for Eric Ibar.
One ball, no strikes, and Iannetta's going to go out and have a conversation. Zobrist hitting .242, 3 home runs and 21 runs batted. He has 11 doubles. We'll start tonight in left field. Bounce around multiple positions. Knee injury and subsequent surgery. Zobrist missing some time in the month of April.
Zobrist 4 for 6 in his career versus Shoemaker.
Cole deep in right field. So that's 6 out of the strike zone now for Matt Shoemaker. And again, with Sonny Gray on the mound, you can't give up a whole lot.
Yeah, you can't have those big innings go against you. You use that ground ball at an infielder now.
Time was called. Zobrist drives one out to right. Cole back, pulls up. This one is off the top of the wall. That is gone. A 3-run home run. And Oakland strikes first. It's 3-0 A's.
Matt Shoemaker had not given up a home run in his last 4 starts. But in a fastball count, the one guy he didn't want up in this situation is Zobrist. With his success he's had against Shoemaker. Now 5 for 7, 3-run home run, giving Oakland an early lead.
That is zoning in on 1 pitch in 1 zone. Bases cleared, nobody out. 3-0 deficit. Reddick takes down and away.
Boy, Zobrist had a short swing, almost like a Chase Utley type swing on that fastball in the inner half.
Yep. 4th of the season. Now with 24 runs batted in. Reddick tops it foul. It's 1 ball, 1 strike. A's right fielder hitting .297. That's 10 home runs, 41 runs batted in. Two-one count. Say what you want about the Oakland A's when you look at their record and their standings, but offensively they are 5th in batting average, 2nd in runs scored, and 4th in on-base percentage. Reddick fouls it back.
And they've scored 41 more runs than the Angels have this year. Standings in the AL West. Texas lost a tough one last night, a walk-off balk against the Dodgers.
Reddick reaches for this one. Giavatelli has it. There's out number 1.
Batting in the 5th position, the designated hitter, number 16, Billy.
Home run that Shoemaker allowed is the 69th allowed by the Angels this season as a team. That is 2nd most in the American League. Toronto Blue Jays have allowed 75 going into today. ties him for 7th most in baseball.
Well, early on, Shoes having a tough time getting that first pitch over for a strike.
Butler, the DH, ahead of the count at 2-0. First year of a 3-year deal, hitting .256, 5 home runs, 32 RBIs, also with 11 doubles. 2-1. Caught the inside corner. Evens up the count at 2 balls and 2 strikes. 3-0 Oakland. Infield base hit by Burns. The walk and vote. Zobrist with a 3-run blast. This one's pulled towards short. Ibar, plenty of time. 2 outs. Ike Davis now coming up.
Batting in the 6th position, first baseman, number 17, Ike Davis.
Shoemaker again falls behind to start off a hitter. Davis hitting .282. Just off the disabled list. Strained left quad. Went on the DL on May 14th. A couple of home runs and 11 runs batted in. First baseman with a 3-0 count. .25 pitches thrown by Shoemaker here in the first inning. Trying to get to third out. 3-1 now. Davis pulls off of that fastball. Full count.
Got that 90-mile-an-hour fastball by him.
Two ground ball left side. Freeze was shifted that way. Has it. And there's the third out. But Oakland strikes in a big way. 3-run blast off the bat of Ben Zobrist as we head to the second. Halos play from behind. Matt Shoemaker along with Chris Iannetta talking things over here. Command an issue for Shoemaker behind and pretty much every hitter in that first inning.
Yeah, the one handshake that was seeing him, he's saying, hey, you're just trying to throw every pitch perfectly on the outside corner or inside corner. Trust a little bit of movement, use a little bit more of the plate, and then work your way to the outside part of the plate. But you got to get ahead with strikes.
It's incumbent upon the catcher at that point, if that's the issue. As Albert steps in and takes ball one.
Yeah, you just
stay set up right behind the plate.
Yeah, just stay right towards the middle.
Right
and just move your glove to which side of the plate you want the pitcher to throw the ball to.
One ball, one strike on Albert, hitting .270. 19 home runs, 37 RBIs. 19 home runs, still leads the American League. Trout, Teixeira, and Cruz tied for second with 18. Well, back got a fastball up.
Well, he had a good swing at that fastball. Again, get yourself a fastball and don't miss it. It was a good swing by Albert. Now probably has to deal with a slider or curveball.
There's that breaking ball. He's trying to protect, gets a piece of it, keeps the at bat alive. When you look at batting averages against Sonny Gray, there aren't many good ones, if any at all. Freese is hitting .294, and that's just because he's 5 for 17 against them. That's it. That's the best.
Again, when you face a team already, we're only in the month of June, you faced them 4 times. You would assume at some point he's going to make a mistake or two. I mean, he's one of the best pitchers in the game, but back-to-back games again against the same team, that's tough.
This one's down toward right center field. It's playable for Reddick. One out.
That being said, now, if you're Matt Shoemaker and you're in the dugout, you have to think in terms of, I got to keep this right as is. I had my one bad inning. Oakland, you mentioned earlier, their bullpen has not been real good this year. So you keep it close, and then hopefully at some point get to that bullpen for Oakland. Then you can take that lead late. But if you want to get that win, if you're Matt Shoemaker, you're going to have to go out there in that 7th, 8th inning and keep it close right now. No more runs at this point for Matt Shoemaker and the Angels.
Freese takes low. .235 average, 10 home runs and 34 RBIs. David 0 for 2 yesterday with a couple of walks.
Remember all those years watching Dave Stewart, former Oakland A, very, very good pitcher he was. He had those tough first innings. Next thing you know, you still look up and he's still in the game. That's how you win games at the major league level on a consistent basis. Be out there late in the ball game, limit the damage after that tough first inning.
One ball, 2 strikes. Opponents fit 194 against Sonny Gray. Split down the middle. Each side of the plate is hit 194 against him.
At this ballpark, David Freese, a .350 hitter. Eric Ibar, who's on deck, a .341 career hitter in this ballpark.
Plays off, and it's a full count. Ibar on deck. And he walked him. Freese picks up the 1-out walk, and Eric will step in. As the Halos take on the Astros on Tuesday at 7:05, and fans in attendance will receive an Angels beach hat courtesy of Chronic Tacos while supplies last. Purchase your tickets today at the Angel Stadium taco office. Ticket office.
You're
I guess I'm hungry still.
Oh, those Chronic Tacos, they're amazing.
Yeah, did you know the Angels Stadium taco office now open? No drive-through though.
No. It's walk up.
Yeah. Eric looks at a strike. Had the day off yesterday, as we mentioned. His batting average has dipped down to 246 with a home run and 19 RBIs. Batting average over the last 13 games has dropped 25 points since the end of his 10-game hitting streak. 7 for his last 52. Decent numbers against Sonny Gray. 264 average. Breaking ball, just missed. 2 balls and 1 strike.
And remember, over these first 3 starts of the season for Sonny Gray against the Angels, there's always that beginning part of the game where he struggles with command, with his breaking ball especially. You have to get him while he's struggling with his command of his breaking ball, both curve and slider. Eric helped him out there. That fastball was out of strike zone. He asked Jim Joyce.
For the most part, Sonny Gray's not going to walk better. Did have one game in which he blew up as far as command was concerned this year. That was against Texas on May the 3rd. He walked 7. 2-2. Fouled off. Walked 7 and struck out 10, and he won. Allowed no runs on 2 hits and 6 2/3.
Hey, when you have that arm that he has, that type of stuff, you can get away with some walks. You don't want to do that. You still have that ability to get that punch out when you need it.
Kind of the Nolan Ryan mentality. I don't care if they steal second, steal third if you want. That's basically where you're going to end up.
Dwight Gooden used to be that way also.
2-2 now. It's a bounce over to first. Davis bobbles it, so it's only plays at first base. Otherwise, that's a potential inning-ending double play. Freeze at second with 2 outs now. Ibar grounds out for the second out.
Davis off the base quickly was almost like he was getting himself in position to make that sidearm throw to second base. He completed a 3-6-3 double play, but didn't look the ball into his glove.
Usually a pretty good fielder, first base.
And with his arm, we talked about that earlier. That had a real good chance to be an inning double play. But the Angels get a break here.
Johnny Giavitello homered yesterday. A couple of hits, going 2 for 5 in that leadoff spot. The 1-0 count. Home run that he hit yesterday's 3rd. 22 RBIs now.
Freeze trying to get a pretty good secondary lead. Silver likes to put a pickoff on it as a second baseman.
That is a pretty good lead for Freeze. Outfield playing shallow with Giavitello at the plate. Oakland with 3 runs in the first, courtesy of Zobrist's 4th home run of the season. Great getting that pitch count up here in the second inning. Deeper counts than I'm sure that he would like. I guess that's the internal battle that you could fight as a team going into a start against Sonny Gray, and that yeah, let's go out and be aggressive. He's going to throw your first pitch fastballs a good chunk of the time. Let's go hacking. Or you take your chances of let's work counts, maybe get the pitch count up, and maybe get him out of there by the 6th inning.
I think his control's too good to worry about pitch counts. And as strong as he is, I don't think that's even going to be an issue for him. I think you have to attack the fastball as much as possible.
2 balls and a strike, although they have kind of I hate to use the term babied him, but have kind of kept his pitch totals in check. And mentioned the last game in which he was seemingly in control, was taken out at 100 pitches, a game in which he easily could have completed. But they've seen some of their arms go down due to injury, so the last thing they want to do is overstress or overwork Sonny Gray.
I wonder how much of a product of their record right now, too, depending on where they are in the standings. And there's still plenty of time to start playing solid baseball. Still, when you're 11.5 games back, you have a very good young arm on the mound. You don't want to overtax him as far as pitches thrown.
Three-one count. Full count. At the bottom part of the strike zone.
It's a good pitcher's pitch right here from Sonny Gray. Paints the outside corner. At the knees, catching the zone, the corner of Fox tracks. So if you're Johnny right now, you've got to be thinking he's throwing a fastball here. So you're just trying to make good contact. Yourself a base hit and score a freeze.
Late on that fastball. Joyce on deck. Giavotella 2 for 8 in his career against Gray. David Freese with a walk, ended up at second. Ground out by Ibar. 2 outs.
Late on another fastball. Now, as a pitcher, sometimes you have a tendency to think, I think I get him to chase a slider. But also, when you see a hitter late on a fastball away, you almost feel like you're doing him a favor by speeding up his bat with a slider.
Punches this one just wide of the bag at first. The perfect 2-strike approach, just trying to put the ball in play, see what happens. This is a team that has committed 65 errors this year, and a chunk of that from the left side of the infield in Simeon and Laurie.
And I saw Ron Washington earlier before the game and said to him, hey, you got your work cut out for him. He goes, yeah, but I'm ready. Trying to get that defense back in order for the Oakland A's.
Another 3-2, and Giavotella, another foul ball.
Nice at bat here for Johnny Giavotella, working the count. Now if he can just get that big base hit, drive in a run, forcing Sonny Gray to keep getting that pitch count up.
Hey, just to go back to your point about slider speed batter speeding up someone's bat. Now, after a couple of these pitches and those type of swings,
slider would be perfect.
Almost even a big curveball to lock, because you've got a hitter now looking in one zone, one area.
And the way his swing is right now, the swing path is just going to be a short swing. It'd be difficult to catch up to a breaking ball.
And they go high fastball, and that's ripped out to left field. This one's over the head of Ben Zobrist. Freese will end up scoring. Giavotella at second. It's an RBI double.
Good swing from Johnny. Showed him in the opening today. Hit a home run in Arizona. Just missed a home run here in Oakland. That's a great at bat. Fought off some tough pitches. Stayed alive in the at bat. And then a mistake by Sonny Gray. Fastball about letter high. Middle part of the plate. Johnny got his hands up through the baseball. And doubles to left field. His 10th double this season.
He likes that high fastball. Prolonged at bat. Picks up his 23rd RBI. Now Matt Joyce will bat here with 2 outs and a man in scoring position. So that bobble by Ike Davis comes back to haunt. As Joyce has a 1-ball, no-strike count. Could have been a double play that ended the inning. Not an error.
Time for Matt Joyce, though, to get a good swing here. Sonny Gray's frustrated. He knew he made a mistake on that pitch to Giavotella. He's a perfectionist. He doesn't like to give up runs. Now see if Matt Joyce can capitalize on a mistake again by Gray.
Backdoor breaking ball misses. 2-0, and now another conversation with Stephen Vogt. Joyce, the DH, hitting just 189, has 4 home runs, 17 RBIs. Did not play in yesterday's game. Was in left field Wednesday night. Had a couple of hits, single and a triple.
Good hack at that fastball.
Angels certainly make him work here in this second inning. 42 pitches already. And Shoemaker threw a lot of pitches in the first inning, giving up the 3 runs.
He only threw 11 pitches in the first inning, Sonny Gray.
Joyce grounds one weakly to second. Sogard has it. And the inning comes to an end. The Angels do get on the board on the RBI double off the bat of Johnny Giavitello here to the bottom of the inning. 3-1 Oakland.
Coors Light. The Angels turn around against the Oakland A's, 13-5 in the last 18 games against the A's. Previous 34, though, is 12-22. Amazing how these teams have split the last 262 games played.
Shoemaker to face the bottom third of the order here in the second. Laurie, Sogard, and Simeon. Brett Laurie, the third baseman, hitting .285 now with 6 home runs, 29 RBIs. This is punch to the right side and a base hit. Taking what's given to him, and he'll take the leadoff single to start this second.
Really starting to turn it around, using the whole field.
Batting in the 8th position, second baseman, number 28, Eric.
He's also a stolen base threat. He's got 3 this year. Bob Melvin likes to put action plays on with Sogard at the plate. Square around or hit and run.
Sogard getting to start tonight at second, hitting .254. We'll take low. 7 doubles, a triple, 18 RBIs for Sogard. 1 ball, 1 strike. Short lead for Laurie. Sogard bounces this one foul. Ty Wallin, first base coach, with the snag.
Nice play.
Three runs in the first for Oakland. Just getting one back in the second. Shoemaker trying to keep it right there. This is a ground ball to the right side. Giavotella has it. Thought about going to second. He'll take the out at first. One down. Laurie at second base now.
Especially didn't get a real good handle on the baseball at that point. Taken out. You see him looking that face, and he looked over at Eric Ibar. He wanted to throw the ball that way, but couldn't get a handle on the baseball, but got the out at first base. Ideally, you always want to get the lead runner. He'll take an out at that spot.
Marcus Semien, the shortstop, at the plate now. .272 average, 6 home runs, 17 runs batted in. He will look at a fastball right down the pipe for strike one.
Brett Laurie get a pretty aggressive secondary lead at second base, and Giavotella real close to the base. And at some point they won't put a pick on also.
Nothing easy for Matt Shoemaker to start this game. He had it rolling on Sunday against Sonny Gray with the defense, as we mentioned. Let them down. And even when they did, they still bounced right back through some strikes. Command is just off today. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Especially his off-speed pitches. We talked about that. One of his keys. As far as all his off-speed pitches this year. So in those pitches, 67% of the time for strikes. Need to be able to throw all-speed pitches for strikes against this lineup for Oakland.
Semien lifts one out to right field. Cole moving over to his left. Make the catch, tagging and trying to go to third base as Brett Laurie. He's in there safely. 2 down.
Good base running by Brett Laurie. It's a long throw with Cole Calhoun, especially going away from the baseball, and a longer throw to third base. Get to third base with 2 outs. You take away sometimes that split finger fastball from a pitcher that has a good one. Cole had to cover some serious ground, got behind the baseball well on a firm throw, but Brett Laurie easily gets into third base. See how long that throw is, all the way over to third base. Aggressive base running by Laurie, and a wise decision by him.
Billy Burns, the center fielder, had an infield base hit in the first inning, stole second and scored a run. Breaking ball for a strike. Both Navarro and Trout shallow. Cole in a couple of steps in right. Freeze even with the bag at third. This was lifted on the third base side and out of play. No balls, 2 strikes. Just by that swing, watching Burns, especially from the left side of the plate. Almost Ichiro-like, where the body is kind of leaning or pulling up the first base line, letting the bat drag. Just a little flare to the left side of the infielder out to left field.
Navarro is playing shallow out and left. He could even take a step or two more in. It's close to the line.
There's one hopper to short, backhanded by Ibar, and it's another infield base hit. It's 4-1.
And that's exactly why you tag up to go from second to third if you're Brett Laurie, because now you score on an infield base hit.
Now batting, the catcher, number 21.
He's trying to slap the ball, very Ichiro-like. They're the ones that really frustrate you when you're on the mound. You make a perfect pitch, and a hitter just slaps it like that. The credit Burns for putting the ball in play. And he'll definitely be going early in the count here. A stolen base back in the first inning.
Oakland gets that run back. 4-1 A's here in the second. Burns with that stolen base in the first inning, his 14th of the year. Jose Altuve leads the American League with 17, at least at the start of the day. Brett Gardner second with 15. Oh, 1 count on Vogt, who drew a walk in the first inning. Mike Davis back in the lineup. Davis will be playing first base. Vogt back behind the plate. One ball, one strike. Burns with a good lead at first base. Step off, no throw from Shoemaker. A couple of finals of baseball already. Toronto beating Baltimore 5-4. Yankees over the Tigers 7-2. A-Rod got his 3,000th career hit. Houston leading Seattle 1-0 in the first. Texas now leading the White Sox 2-1 in the ninth. Good off-speed pitch.
Chris Sale was dealing.
Yeah,
for the White Sox too.
That was perfect game into the seventh. Marco Estrada had a no-hitter into the eighth for the Blue Jays. That got broken up.
Yeah, swinging the bat, the Blue Jays.
Yeah, Toronto ended up winning 5-4. 1-2 pitch. They pitch out. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Yeah, their bullpen not real strong for Toronto. That's why they're in that conversation along with the Chicago Cubs for Jonathan Papelbon. Pretty big lead for Burns.
4-1 Oakland here in the second. Another throw to first.
At this point, though, with a very good hitter, plate and see Vogt, 2 strikes on him. Mindset as a pitcher is get him.
Burns takes off. Vogt goes around, and that'll do it. First strikeout of the game for Shoemaker, but Oakland tacks on a run. We head to the third. Halos down 4-1. Halos will have 9, 1, and 2. Iannetta, Navarro, and Calhoun here to face Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray had a long second inning, limited it to just 1 run. That was the RBI double off the bat of Johnny Giavitello.
Yeah, he threw 32 pitches in the second inning.
1 strikeout, 1 walk for Sonny Gray, and 1 hit allowed. Chris Iannetta cuts through the fastball, and it's an 0-1 count. Chris hitting 169, 3 home runs, 14 runs batted in. Last start for Chris was on Wednesday as he lifts this one out to right. Brennan comes in. 1 down. Hey, folks, come celebrate Christmas in June when the Angels take on the Mariners next Friday at 7:05. Fans in attendance will receive an Angels ornament courtesy of Singevity. Get your tickets at the Angel Stadium ticket office.
Ticket office?
Yeah, not the taco office.
The ticket office.
Or at angels.com.
Oh, you're excited for that day. I know
yes,
that.
I am.
Oh, there's no question.
We should leave it up to the fans at home via Twitter as to what we should wear.
Yes.
For Christmas in June. For that broadcast.
You ready for it? You prepared to do that?
Yeah, well, within reason, sure. Yeah.
Within reason?
Yeah, you know, we could always not do it. Navarro looks at a strike. Effort. Grounded out. But I'm willing to listen to suggestions.
Yes.
Right?
I agree.
The Angels have asked us if we're interested in doing anything.
Yes.
Partaking in the festivities, if you will.
Yes.
I know you're willing.
Oh, there's no question.
1 ball, 1 strike. Effort grounded out in the first. So send us your tweets.
Yes, by all means.
What should Gooby and I dress up as for Christmas in June? This one ripped to right. Headed to the wall. Navarro is going to try to go to second. And he is in there with a 1-out double.
Nice.
Third double for
nice
Everett.
swing by Navarro on that pitch from Sonny Gray. Fastball. Lower part of the strike zone and turns on it. Tell you what, he's scolded some baseballs on this trip so far. That double he had in Arizona, that one hopped the wall. If it doesn't go in the stands, or in the pool, I should say, then that game was tied the other day.
Splash down.
Yes. You're thinking about what you want to dress up in, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I'm concentrating on Cole Calhoun's.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The folks have already chimed in, though, by the way.
Oh.
I think that maybe you should dress up as an elf like Will Ferrell.
I would love, buddy.
Buddy, yeah.
A little maple syrup on my spaghetti. That'd be perfect.
Cole Calhoun grounded out in the first inning. He's 0 for 1. Incredible visual. Trout on deck.
Well, the good thing we won't be playing Oakland because they're pretty much their colors for Buddy, the elf.
I think it's Seattle, right? Yeah.
Yes.
That's Friday night, right? 26th?
Yeah. Yeah, it goes off day on the 25th.
That's, yeah. Friday night against the M's, huh? Thinking about it. You know, I did. My family did get me that Mike Trout ugly sweater for Christmas.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
2 balls and a
That'd be a
strike.
good look for you.
Yeah. Be nice and cool
Oh, no
under
question.
the lights.
Oh, yeah.
Good hitters count here with a man in scoring position. 1 out. 4-1 Oakland in third. Two.
I can't clear that out of my mind right now. This
You,
going up the escalator there is Buddy the elf would be perfect.
That's what you're thinking.
That's
of,
one of the
aren't
best scenes ever.
you? Yeah. I think you should dress up as Buddy the Elf. I mean, Farrell's tall like you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll bring it all into play because he came in and played an inning or two
That's
for
right.
the Angels this spring training.
Right. 2-2 now. The swing and miss got him on the breaking ball. 2 out, second strikeout for Sonny Gray.
Now it's time for the T-Mobile game changer. Like Trout coming into plate. Done very well in his last 19 games here in Oakland. .338 batting average with 9 home run and 22 RBI. Had a streak of 5 straight games with a big fly here in Oakland. This ties an Angel record for any park. Bonds it in Anaheim. Troy Gloss in Baltimore. A home run right here would be perfect.
This one's ripped out toward right center field. Burns will track it down shy of the track. Trout gave it a ride, but Burns tracks it down. That double by Efron. Stranded at second. Will hit at the bottom of the third. 4-1 Oakland.
Rodriguez looking for hit number 3,000 in his career. Goes the other way. A home run against Justin Verlander. Just like their Jeter got his 3,000 hit. A home run in Yankee Stadium. Rod does the same. Wade Boggs got his 3,000 hit as a home run
In Tampa.
against Chris Haney, my old teammate. Pittsburgh, Cleveland at that point.
Shoemaker to face Zobrist, Reddick, and Butler here in the third. Zobrist shoots one out the left. Efron back a couple of steps. He'll put it away for the first down. Zobrist with a home run in the first inning. Fly out here. So he's 1 for 2. First time that Matt has retired the leadoff man, which is kind of a little bit of a moral victory. Kind of back on track. Angels have taken some pretty good hacks against Sonny Gray.
Yeah, he's not quite as crisp tonight. I mean, Trout hit that ball extremely well in the inning last inning. Thought that had a chance to get off the wall. Burns ran it down.
Reddick grounded out to Giavotella first, so he's 0 for 1. Little number up the line, foul. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Pretty good crowd here at the Coliseum. Making fireworks after the game. Plus, they had the parade earlier today. That's a serious day off. If he ended up calling in sick today, hang out downtown. Watch the Golden State Warriors parade. Come to the yard. They were tailgating early here.
Yeah, they were. I remember missing one day of school in my high school time and back in Philly, going to the parade for the Phillies in 1980 when they won the World Series.
Reddick drives one out the left. Effort is there. 2 outs.
One of the few times my dad was okay with me saying I was sick that day.
Yeah. Your dad didn't believe in that, huh?
No. I don't feel real good. Well, yeah, you do. Okay, I do. As a mailman, you know, you had to go to work no matter what, no matter what the conditions were. And his 4 boys were going to do the same thing, to make sure they didn't miss any school.
How'd that work out for you?
Real well.
Billy Butler takes down the way.
Oh, but I got 103 temperature. Now you're fine. Okay.
Let's tape an aspirin to it.
Yes. It's perfect.
Go get him.
Yep.
Butler, the DH, grounded out to Ibar's first time up. He's ahead of the count of 2 balls and no strikes. Man, they call it country breakfast.
Country breakfast.
This is a bouncer to third. Freeze. Can't come up with it. He's looking at the cut of the grass as if the ball redirected. But that seemed to be off the bat, a routine ground ball, but had to have done something for David not to get
the way he's looking. He's going to look up to see you up in the Jumbotron here. So he thought he had that one timed perfectly, but by him.
Ike Davis.
2 out single keeps the inning alive, and it is Ike Davis. Davis grounded out to Freeze in the first. Two one count. Five hits for Oakland already. 2 2/3. Now it just missed. 3-1. Seems like they want to pitch Davis away. Yet the infield playing him to pull.
Remember that game we had like 3 hits? Every one of those were little flares to left field.
Pulls this one to second. Inning over. 3 complete here at the Coliseum. Oakland leads it 4-1. Down 4-1 against Sonny Gray. He'll be followed by David Freese and Eric Ibar. Albert with a fly ball to right field, so he is 0 for 1. The Angels have managed 2 hits. Both of the hits extra base hits, doubles. Giavattel an RBI double to second. Navarro had a 1-out double in the third, but he was stranded at second. 54 pitches for Gray, 2 punch outs and 1 walk.
Sonny Gray has had 2 11-pitch innings and then a 32-pitch inning.
Just keeping you honest.
Yep.
2 balls and no strikes.
Yeah, and for what I've seen from him so far in this game, he's not quite as crisp, although he's only given up 1 run so far.
Albert yesterday went 0 for 2, had a couple of walks. Both intentional. It's a chopper to the left side. Brett Lawrie has it go in and out of his glove. He cut in front of Simeon. And figure that'll get charged as an error.
That would have been a real long throw for Lawrie. He was working his way into that outfield grass himself.
Now batting, number 6, David Freese.
Playing that hop. Would have been a long throw for Simeon, but he has a great arm himself.
It is an error on Brett Laurie's 10th of the year. Mentioned the left side of the infield. A combined 32 errors. Simeon has 22, and now Lawrie with 10. Now it's up to the Angels to take advantage of those things, just like Oakland did against Shoemaker. Sundays, David takes upstairs. He drew a walk and scored in the second.
Good count to do some damage. Get another extra base hit for David Freese. Should get a fastball. Back to back batters, 2-0 counts for Gray.
Former first round pick out of Vanderbilt back in 2011. 14 game winner a season ago. 8 wins already this year. 2-1.
How about the season Garrett Cole's having for Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Former UCLA Bruin and Orange Lutheran product. What, 11 game winner already? That whole staff for Pittsburgh, although not quite as good today, they have been unbelievable.
Ground ball up the middle. That'll sneak through for a base hit. Albert will stop at second. So the first 2 have reached for the Angels. First time tonight they've had multiple base runners on board. It'll bring up Eric Ibar.
Now batting.
We talked about that simple approach against Gray. This went right back up the middle for David Freese. 6 for 19 in his career versus Sonny Gray. We'll make that 6 for 18.
Ibar grounded out to first in the second inning. Takes low.
Again behind the count again. Not as comfortable either. More movement walking off the pitching rubber. Generally, he doesn't even move off the pitching rubber. You have to get him while you have an opportunity. Get to that bullpen of Oakland's.
Ground ball towards second. Sogard has it. Fires to second base. Simeon digs it out. Nice play by the shortstop.
That's a pretty risky play by Sogard. And a very good scoop. You mentioned Victor by Simeon. That's a tough one, especially with a runner going right at the baseball at second base.
Now batting.
The low throw, good pick, and got his leg out of the way of the cleat coming at him.
If that ball hits David Spikes going in, that ball goes into the outfield. Run scores, and you've got to.
That's tough to keep your eye on the baseball too as a middle infielder because you have a guy already sliding at you trying to prevent a double play. I can understand why Sogard does that, because you keep a double play in order. But that's a risky play.
Yeah, in a tight game late, 1-run game or 2-run game or something like that, I can understand it. 4-1 in the 4th inning.
Yeah, take the out.
Giavotella doubled home a run in the 2nd. He takes ball 1 here. Double for Johnny is 10th. The RBI is 23rd.
And when you talk about fly balls to the outfield, you have to get that ball pretty deep to right field with Reddick's arm. It will challenge Burns. Same thing with Zobrist out in left. Every batter in this inning for Sonny Gray behind in the count.
Hunter Socha starts Ibar from first base against Stephen Vogt. Had his issues thrown out, would be base stealers. Two balls, no strikes.
And these are those times where you just center in on a spot where you can drive the ball, kind of similar what Zobrist did in the first inning, a 2-0 count. Giavotella has a 2-0 count. You don't want to chase anything out of the zone. You want to get your spot where you can do some damage with a pitch.
This one lifted out toward right center field. Reddick getting behind the baseball. Pujols tagging at third base. Albert's coming home. The throw to the plate is up the line. The run scores. Ibar to second. It's 4-2 Oakland. Second RBI of the game for Giavotella.
Yeah, it looked like Reddick was getting behind the baseball, but still almost caught it flat-footed out in right field. Giavotella gets the job done with a sac fly, challenging the better throwing arms in right field in baseball. So Reddick gets back towards the baseball, is calling off Burns, but still didn't have a lot of momentum going for him. Then the high throw, it's up the first base line, and also allows Eric Ibar to get into scoring position.
So it's 4-2 now with 2 outs in the 4th. Ibar at second, Joyce at the plate. Joyce 0 for 1 as he grounded out to Sogard. It's the 5th game in which Giavatella's had 2 or more runs batted in. Season high is 4 RBIs against Oakland back on April 21st. It's a 14-1 win for the Angels. Mike Davis game. Oh, to Joyce. He lines one right back to Gray for the 3rd out. I'm not sure it gets up the middle with the shift on, but what a play by Sonny Gray. More self-preservation than anything else.
We've said a number of times he is a very good athlete on the mound. Gets that line drive right back up the middle, falling towards first, puts a glove up there. Nice play by Sonny Gray.
Your Halos need your help. Fill out your 2015 Esurance MLB All-Star Game ballot now at Angels.com. Voting is exclusively online and available on your computer, tablet, and smartphone. Vote up to 35 times at Angels.com.
Got to get Albert Pujols on that team, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Out there and vote.
Vote might be tough. Selection, perhaps.
Deserves it.
Yeah. Brett Laurie with his second hit. Leadoff single. That's 3 of the 4 innings. But the leadoff man is reaching against Matt Shoemaker. The Angels will get action in their bullpen now that they've cut the deficit to 2. Matt Shoemaker has a short leash here in the 4th inning. 6th hit he's allowed. Jose Alvarez, first man up.
I think Mike Scioscia senses the fact that Sonny Gray's not quite as crisp, like we've said. So if Shoemaker or the bullpen can keep it at 4-2 here for a while, they're going to have to go to the bullpen, Oakland. They've struggled in that spot. And have a chance to come back and win this game. It's up to Shoemaker to make sure Oakland does not score anymore.
Sogard grounded out his first time up. And while Brett Laurie is not your prototypical stolen base threat, those calls for him to throw over there, giving Alvarez a little bit more time in the bullpen to get ready.
See those numbers, that means you might see him square around the bunt or hit and run against Shoemaker.
Lifts this one out to center. It's playable for Trout. 1 out.
Sogard, we see that in his numbers now, 1 for 11 against Shoemaker, though. You think about it, Sogard has good numbers against Jared Weaver, who's on the hill tomorrow. The reason why I say that is because very similar as far as all 4 quadrants of the strike zone. Weaver's got that very good curveball and changeup. Shoemaker's secondary pitch would be his slider and his split finger fastball.
Simeon looks at a strike. The shortstop hit a fly ball to right in the 2nd. Cooled off considerably after his on start. Still a young player. Came over to Jeff Smart's deal. One and 2. Good breaking ball. And a swing and a miss. Simeon saying that maybe he fouled it into the dirt. Jim Joyce not buying it. That's a strikeout.
That's a pretty good split finger fastball from Shoemaker. See if he made any contact with that one. Looked like he missed it by quite a bit. Splitter down. That's a great block too by Chris Iannetta, but a perfect pitch by Shoemaker.
So 2 outs. Brett Laurie still at first base. And leadoff man Billy Burns at the plate. He's 2 for 2. 2 infield singles. He pops this one up. Playable for David Freese. Shoemaker gets out of it. Leadoff single. Nothing more. 4 in the books here at the O.co Coliseum. 4-2. Oakland on top.
Brought to you by the 2015 Jeep Cherokee with an EPA estimate of 31 miles per gallon. Visit Jeep.com for more information. By AT&T Uverse, more live channels on the go than cable. And by Subaru. Test drive the all-new 2015 Subaru Forester or go to Subaru.com to learn more.
Top of the fifth inning, Halos down 4-2. Iannetta, Navarro, and Calhoun coming up. Face Sonny Gray. Beautiful day here at the Bay Area. On the Bay. In the Bay Area.
Yeah, in the Bay.
Chris Iannetta, fly ball to right field in the third inning is 0 for 1. Sonny Gray, 2 strikeouts, 1-1. 3 hits allowed. Iannetta went around. It's an 0-1 count.
In the 3 games so far, Sonny Gray against the Angels, 7 innings pitched, 95 pitches. 8 innings pitched, 105, and then 7 2/3, 100. The pitch count's certainly a lot higher in this game. With 71 here into the 5th inning.
He's had 1-1-2-3 inning. That was the first. And he made quick work of Navarro, Calhoun, and Trout. Trout striking out looking. The command's been a little bit off for him. But that said, he has limited the damage. The run that came in the 4th inning, an unearned run because of the error by Brett Laurie to open up the inning.
Not quite as good this game, although still pretty solid. His last 5 starts, unbelievable.
Simeon has this one. Iannetta retired for the first out.
Navarro had a real good swing last at bat against Sonny Gray. Double down the right field line. Fastball, 94-mile-an-hour fastball at the knees inside.
One for 2 game. That is a fastball that split the heart of the plate. That reaction right there by Effort, almost as if probably should have pulled the trigger on.
Yeah, and then you expand your strikes on the next pitch generally.
Sinking fastball.
Thought about it too, because when as a hitter, when you get a pitch, you can do some damage and you let it go. You have a tendency to expand your zone a little bit more so the very next pitch. You want to let another good one get away.
Took something off. Two balls and 2 strikes. Oakland with 3 runs in the first inning on the Zobrist home run. Got a solo run in the second. Angels solo run in the second and 4th. This one foul out. Play. The count remains at 2-2. That's a fair ball. 2 outs. I'm not sure what Efren thought. Looked like a swing, and then the ball was in fair territory.
And the only thing he could think of is maybe he fouled that baseball behind the plate to start with.
Yeah, that's an out.
See right here, breaking ball.
Now batting, number 56, Cole Calhoun.
See at this angle, see where the baseball was. It was behind the plate.
If it goes into fair territory, it's a fair ball. where the baseball is at once the position player, before it gets to the bags anyways, at first or third, where he fields that baseball.
Yeah, because you can hit a ball down the first baseline initially and then rolls back into fair territory. It's fair.
So 2 outs, nobody on, and Cole at the plate. He fouls that one back. Good rip at that fastball. See how frustrated Cole is there.
Again, Sonny Gray likes to challenge hitters with his fastball, generally first pitch. He's not trying to hit a zone, he's just challenging.
Cole grounded out to short in the first inning, struck out in the third. If he follows the same pattern as Navarro, he's going to go off speed here. Trout on deck.
Changeup. Good changeup. Starting to throw a few more changeups. He's got a good one.
Two pitches for Gray. Two balls and 2 strikes. Alvarez sat down in the Angels' pen, so Shoemaker will come back out for the 5th. Vogt, Zobrist, and Reddick 2, 3, and 4 due up for Oakland. 2-2 now. Full count.
Trying to get on base somehow, some way for bring up Mike Trout to be able to tie the game up at one swing.
Time called. He's not going to be working into the 8th inning, that's for sure. 84 pitches now. 3-2. This one's fouled off. Reset and do it again.
Throw him another changeup. That's a couple of changeups in this sequence against Cole Calhoun. Sonny Gray. Slider here now, down and in.
And that is driven to center field. Burns, however, is there. A 1-2-3 inning for Gray. We'll head to the bottom of the 5th inning with the Angels trailing at 4-2. broadcast is presented by authority of the Los Angeles Angels and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Angels Baseball LP. 2, 3, and 4 due up for Oakland. Vogt, Zobrist, and Reddick. Stephen Vogt, catcher, walked and scored in the first, struck out in the second. Yeah, I believe in Stephen Vogt chant going strong out at right field.
Even with that noise, you can still hear Jim Joyce calling a strike, that's for sure.
There's no doubt about that.
Even at our hotel in San Francisco, we would hear it.
Breaking ball lifted in the air toward the right field corner. Long run for Cole Calhoun near the wall. That is gone. An off-speed pitch, and it's a home run for Vogt. His 13th of the year, and that makes it 5-2 Oakland.
Right down the middle of the plate, curveball. Vogt didn't miss that mistake by Matt Shoemaker.
th home run of the season. 48th run batted in. He's been struggling the month of June. That's his second home run for June. Had 7 in May and 4 in April. Zobrist lifts one down left field line. Long run for everybody. And nobody can get there. Ball is foul. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Zobrist.
Down in the bullpen for Oakland, we're talking to Eric Ibar. He wants a drink by the time he got over there by the bullpen, as long as his run was. Because he's playing Zobrist to pull. He's towards second base and had to go all the way into foul territory.
This one now toward left center field. Navarro is not going to get there. Zobrist on his way to second. He will stop there with a double, and that may be all for Matt Shoemaker. Home run and a double to start this 5th inning, and here comes Soshin. Sure enough, Shoemaker's done after having a pretty decent 3rd and 4th inning, but command an issue early on and not missing bats here in the 5th inning. 8 hits allowed by Shoemaker through 4 innings. So we got our pitching change, the first of the night. Oakland leading at 5-2. It goes to the pen, and it's Jose Alvarez on at relief here, and earning out who's in, who is out. Alvarez pitching in his 24th game, 1-1 record of 3.25 earned run average.
Reddick only hitting 140 against left-handed pitching. Alvarez 1-1 this year. It's his 24th game. ERA 3.25. Lefties hitting 190 against him.
Shoemaker responsible for Zobrist at second. And Reddick listening down the right field line, not very deep, toward the bullpen, and except for by Giavotella to catch up to it. 0-2 count.
It's a tough one for Shoemaker. 8 hits allowed. A couple of home runs. You're going 4 straight games without a home run.
Yeah, it's a pattern, however. This being his 13th start. It's his 6th start in which he's had given up 2 or more home runs. Reddick pops this one foul and out of play. Girardi of his 4 straight starts, including the last one against Oakland. But from the get-go today, it was a little bit of a struggle for him.
You know you're facing a very good pitcher that doesn't give up a lot of runs. Trying to be too perfect. That's when you get yourself in trouble.
Reddick 0 for 2 with a ground down and a fly ball to left. Tied him up. Dislocation, but it was effective. Down and in. 1 out.
Pretty good velocity on that fastball from Alvarez. And it is setting up away. Fastball inside part of the plate.
Jose's averaging about a strikeout per inning. Gets one here for the first out. And now it's Billy Butler. Butler singled in the 3rd. He's 1 for 2. No balls, 2 strikes. Halos in the 6th inning. Have Trout, Pujols, and Freese coming up. Face Sonny Gray. Upstairs, 1-2.
Mistakes pop for an off-speed pitch. You don't want to be upstairs on an off-speed pitch. Allows the hitter to make an adjustment. More difficult to do so with a fastball that's upstairs.
This one lifted out toward right. Cole will make the catch. Zobrist stays at second. 2 outs.
Now batting first baseman, number 17, Mike Stevens.
Oh, Paul McCartney and Wings, right?
Yeah.
Pretty good walk-up song right there.
He is, like Davis.
Yeah. 0 for 2 with a couple of ground outs. Oh, 1 count. A 5-2 Oakland lead. both opening this fifth with a home run. Zobrist with a double chased Matt Shoemaker. This one pulled to second. Givattel out in the outfield grass, throws out Davis. And we will head to the sixth inning. Halos do have Trout, Pujols, and Freese coming up, down 5-2.
Zobrist, 2 on. Short, compact swing against Matt Shoemaker. A 3-run home run to right center field. But Johnny Givattel is having himself a solid game offensively. A double driving in 1 run. Eventually drove in another. The sac fly, but then Sonny Gray pitching well, but also fielding his position. That line drive back up the middle, using that glove to make it play against Matt Joyce.
Sonny Gray back to work. 2 strikeouts, 1 walk. Not your typical Sonny Gray outing. But it's been good enough. 86 pitches through 5 innings, and you'll face Trout, Pujols, and Freese for the Angels here.
And you know you're good when you don't have your best stuff. You've only allowed 1 earned run through 5 innings.
Trout 0 for 2, struck out looking in the first, and drove one out to right center, but it was tracked down by Burns just shy of the track.
See if they stay away against Trout this whole way back. We'll be going a change up here. Been a cut fastball.
Yeah.
Again, staying away against Trout. Now that's what pitchers are trying to do over the last couple of weeks against Trout. Trying to find a new way to get one of the best players in all of baseball out, is going away.
He reaches for this one, bounces it. Laurie cuts it off, gets rid of it quickly. Trout retired for the first out.
In all 3 pitches away against Trout.
Albert 0 for 2, reached on the arrow by Brett Laurie in the 4th inning. Unearned run. Charge to Gray. Could very well be Sonny Gray's last inning. Oakland did activate Edward Mujica off the DL as well. Told that Bob Melvin saying that Mujica will be his 8th inning guy as Albert retired for the 2nd out. That'll bring up Freese. Best now is the perfect time to reserve a suite rental during the summer. Suites offer 12 to 36 guests the opportunity to enjoy the game in intimate and luxurious atmosphere. Suite rentals offer all-inclusive food and non-alcoholic beverage options. To reserve your suite today, call 888-796-HALO or log on at angels.com/suites.
Well, it's pretty quick innings so far for Sonny Gray.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for the Angels, pitch count at 91. His 5 pitches thrown so far in this inning to get 2 outs.
He's retired 7 straight since Ibar reached on fielder's choice. That's the one at bat you'd like to have back. The error by Lloyd, the single by Freese, first and second, nobody out, and Eric gets into the fielder's choice, and the Angels eventually get 1 unearned run. But an inning that could try to build off, score multiple runs on.
And everyone was ahead of the count in that inning also, including Eric Ibar.
Freese with a single up the middle is 1 for 1. He walked and scored in the second. And ahead of the count at 2-1. Two. Taylor's have just not been able to put together a string of games in which, kind of like yesterday, 8 hits, 7 runs. Just got to do that for 3, 4, 5 games to kind of let everybody else relax a little bit.
Yeah, I was on the A's pregame show and the radio show today, and they asked the same question: when is this club going to put together a streak? And we basically said once the offense becomes more consistent. I mean, the pitching staff has done a pretty solid job throughout this year. There's been some games in which the starters have struggled a bit, but if you put it together as an offense, that's when you have a chance to win your 7, 8, 9 games in a row.
Freese. These guys went on the first base side. A lot of foul room here. Ike Davis can't find the baseball. Now does. And almost goes barreling into that short wall. He was running to a spot. Didn't know where the ball was at.
He just run into a general area. He has no idea where the baseball's at, and then finally tracks it at the last second. Went into a slide. Forced it, went into a slide because it's right at that short wall. He's playing well off the line at first base, and that's a long way to go.
The old twilight. This one out to shallow right. Sogard calling for it. And Sonny Gray with a 1, 2, 3, 6th inning. We'll head to the bottom of the frame. It is 5-2 Oakland.
Big cut can. Stand up, show it.
Out of the 6th inning, bottom third, coming up to face Jose Alvarez, who was brought on in relief of Matt Shoemaker and retired 3 straight. Brett Laurie, Eric Sogard, and Marcus Semien due up here against the lefty. Brett Laurie 2 for 2, a couple of singles and a run scored.
Think about Brett Lawrie. He is up there hacking early in the count. Just 11 walks this season and 239 at bats. That 250 at bats, 11 walks for him. On that old school Willie Wilson's theory that guy wanted him to walk, he'd be a mailman.
Yeah.
Boy, Willie Wilson used to have around 700 official at bats every single season.
It's one way to win a batting title.
Yeah. Just swing often.
Just outlast everybody.
Well, he was good as far as getting those triples when they used to have that AstroTurf in Kansas City. And in some inside the park home runs.
Swinging a base, down goes Lawrie. Good fastball away. One down.
That's some good velocity tonight. Jose Alvarez, good location, good velocity. Hides the baseball well, hits the spot, gets a swing and miss from Brett Lawrie.
Second baseman, number 28.
Pulled off the baseball and unable to make contact. His first at bat, he did a nice job against Matt Shoemaker, just punching that ball in the right field.
Oh, 2 count on Sogard, who has grounded out and hit a fly ball to center.
Well, there's no slowing down Jim Joyce behind the plate. Still hear that strike call.
So foul back. The count remains at 1-2. A couple of afternoon games coming up tomorrow and Sunday. Jared Weaver on the mound tomorrow afternoon. Jesse Hahn going for Oakland. And on Sunday, it's the former Angel Scott Kazmir for his first appearance against the Halos this year, going up against Garrett Richards. The 1 o'clock starts, 12:30 Angels live pregame. Called strike 3. Down goes Sogard. 2 outs.
Paints the outside corner or close to the outside corner. Target set up. Nice job by Ionetta keeping that glove right there. Didn't try to move it. Kept it there. And Joyce brings up Sogard.
Two balls and no strikes on Simeon. He's 0 for 2. Fly ball to right and a strikeout.
We got there a couple quick outs. That's what you don't want to do if you're Jose Alvarez. You want to finish off the inning as quick as possible.
3-1. And a 2-out walk to the 9th place hitter. Spins the lineup around at the top with Burns coming up. A couple of infield base hits and a pop-up. No balls and a strike. Burns from the right side of the plate this year, 296 average compared to the 323 from the left.
We're just looking at the batting average against Sonny Gray. Righties, lefties, you mentioned that earlier. Both 194. Looking at Scott Kazmir, both lefties and righties, both hitting 222 against him. With a big difference tomorrow in the game. Jesse Hahn, lefties hitting 294 against him as compared to righties at 181.
Coming back out for the 7th. They'll face Ibar, Giavotella, Joyce, having retired 8 in a row. His last 8 in a row. Count remains at 0-2. Breaking ball, 1-2. Checking in on Simeon again. 7 stolen bases. He's been caught twice. Little pop up on the right side of the infield. Albert can't come up with it. Tried to barehand it. And that'll goes an infield base hit.
A la Kevin Mitchell using the bare hand to make a play on a pop-up. That's 3 hits for Burns in this game. None of his at-bats have left the infield. He's 3 for 4, and not one baseball has left the infield dirt. That's why, as a pitcher, anything hit on that side of the field, just be over there anyhow. If Giavotella got to that baseball, I don't know if they have a chance at Burns at first. You still have to be there just in case.
So now 2 outs and 2 on, and Stephen Voda homered his last time up. This, of course, all possible because of a The 2-out letdown. The walk with 2 outs to Marcus Semien after Alvarez struck out the first 2 guys who start the inning. And Salas now getting ready. Ball and strike. Home run for Vogt is 13th of the year. Solo shot that opened up the 5th inning. Vogt pulls one toward first, and Albert can't handle it. Goes underneath his glove. 1 run in for sure. The second one's going to come in to score. Vogt rounding second. He'll stop right there. And it is 7-2 Oakland.
That baseball to stay low on Pujols, unable to get the glove in front of him and make the play.
Calling that a double for Vogt, but sorry to say, that's a ball you got to get in front of and knock down with 2 outs. Sometimes the truth hurts. Mike Scioscia out to make a pitching change. Alvarez done. Salas coming in. 7-2 Oakland.
By Subway. Download the Subway Restaurants app and lose the weight when you pick up your order. It's Subway made simple.
Oakland now leads at 7-2. Is still in the bottom of the 6th inning. And Fernando Salas takes over on the mound here for Jose Alvarez, who really opened this door up with kind of a letdown, walking Marcus Semien after he struck out the first 2 guys. Fernando pitching his 31st game, 0-1 record. And a 4.67 ERA facing Ben Zobrist with a man at second. First pitch swinging is Zobrist. High bar. Pujols inning finally over. Oakland tacks on 2 more. We head to the 7th. 7-2 Athletics. by Time Warner Cable. Enjoy better. Call 1-855-1-TWC. By Mercury Insurance, on a mission to save you money. Log on to mercuryinsurance.com to get a fast, free quote and see how much you can save. And by Hyundai. Great deals on amazing cars are going on now at your Hyundai dealer. Visit buyhyundai.com today. Top of the 7th inning, Halos down 7-2. Ibar, Giavotella, Joyce to face Sonny Gray. Game 1 of this 3-game series. 2 strikeouts, 1 walk, and 3 hits allowed for Sonny Gray. Eric Ibar 0 for 2. Ground down at a fielder's choice.
24 batters faced by Gray in this game. 14 first pitch strikes. Not the norm, but still into that 7th inning once again. Pitching well against the Halos. Just 1 earned run so far. This pitch will be pitch number 100 for Gray. Still no movement in the bullpen yet for Oakland.
Two balls and a strike.
62 strikes. 62% of his pitches in the strike zone, which is below normal for Sonny Gray.
Gray does not get the call. Eric ahead of the count now at 3-1. And there's a leadoff walk. Second walk issued by Gray.
Hyundai key for this game against Sonny Gray. What about swim? Don't chase pitches out of the strike zone. Attack the fastball.
Now batting, number 12, Johnny Giavotella.
Big thing against Sonny Gray. He hasn't been as consistent. But still has made the quality pitch when he's needed to tonight.
Oakland will start to get some action going in their bullpen. Giavotella with an RBI double in the second, a sac fly in the 4th. Gray falls behind at 1-0. Left-hander Drew Pomeranz getting ready. Boat's going to go out and talk things over. Leadoff walk to Eric Ibar. Just the second time tonight the Angels had their leadoff man reached. The other was on the error by Laurie in the 4th. The run eventually came around to score. Two 2-1 now. 3 balls and a strike.
Going to be his last batter if he walks Giavotella, Bob Melvin. Looks like he's poised to walk out to the mound.
Lefty on deck and Joyce. Pomeranz getting ready. And there's ball 4. So back-to-back walks to start the 7th. And they're going to stick with Gray. We're just going to have a conversation here.
Now batting, number 20, Matt Joyce.
Especially with command, back-to-back walks over the 100-pitch mark. Doesn't do that all that often. More of a situation where Pomeranz may not be ready. By looking down to the bullpen, you usually have that tip of the cap if he's ready. And that's why you see Kurt Young, the pitching coach, who's done a very good job over the years here in Oakland, just to try to get Sonny Gray back on track. Anytime you see back-to-back walks late in the game, that's usually a danger sign as a manager. And how long do you want to keep a pitcher in the game?
Matt Joyce 0 for 2. Line went back to Gray his last time up. That was in the 4th. He will look at a strike. Four for 17 in his career against Gray. Ibar's second, Giavotella at first. 7-2. Oakland leads it here in the 7th. Ground ball past the shortstop. Simeon. Ibar will come in to score. And it's an RBI single for Joyce. So 2 walks and now a single, and it's 7-3. Joyce picks up his 18th RBI.
Just went with the pitch in the right spot, just past Simeon, who was playing up the middle.
Vogt was kind of caught off guard. Simeon
That was a lot.
Lauren let that ball go through.
That was a lot closer, though.
Yeah.
Generally, you don't want to try to throw the ball through the home plate, especially when you have a pretty good lead late.
Still nobody out here. Chris Iannetta will bat. He's 0 for 2. A fly ball to right and a ground ball to short. Fastball right down the pipe for a strike. Interesting in that the last start for Gray into the 8th inning, and they took him out at 100 pitches. Tonight with a 7-2 lead after 2 walks, they'd leave him in.
I was really surprised he left him in for Joyce, other than the fact that Pomeranz may not have been ready.
Edward Mujica, the right-hander, now getting ready.
Bob Melvin hasn't had a lot of confidence in the bullpen this season for Oakland. They've struggled. ERA 4.5. Just last in the American League as far as their starters, though, very good with an ERA of 3.00, which is the best in the American League. That's probably the reason.
That looked like he went around. They're going to appeal, and he did not. They've gotten the benefit of the call on that one. So it's 1 ball, 2 strikes, a hard breaking ball in the dirt.
See from this angle if he went. I thought he went. Real close, borderline. Looked like he did hold it.
Yeah.
Catchers seem to get those calls. They have those good conversations, protect home plate umpires. Yeah. Eventually he'll work his way over the home plate.
Greg Gibson will be behind the plate tomorrow. 1-2. Chris pulls one into left field, a base hit. Giavotella will be stopped, and now they are loaded with nobody out, and Efrain Navarro coming up. That is going to be it for Sonny Gray, I would imagine. Here comes Bob Melvin.
And you wonder if Mike Scioscia won't counter with a pinch hitter himself.
So Gray comes into this 7th inning with a 7-2 lead and does not retire a batter. 2 walks and 2 singles. We've got ourselves a pitching change. 7-3 Oakland. At 3 now. How big are those 2 runs that scored in the bottom of the 6th? Pomeranz 2-3 record of 4.01 ERA. He's been a swing guy for Bob Melvin. He can pitch out of the pen. He could also give you a couple of starts as well. He's done that 8 starts this year.
Fastball's 88 to 93. He's a curveball, changeup. There's quite a few curveballs. A good curveball.
A tough 7th inning for Sonny Gray. 2 walks to start the inning and then back-to-back singles to Joyce and Iannetta. The Angels will pinch hit here. Daniel Robertson pinch hitting for Effort Navarro. Effort finishes the night going 1 for 3 with a double. Robertson playing in his 5th game with the Angels. He's 2 for 5. 0 for 1 as a pinch hitter. No place to put him. Givitella at third base. Joyce at second. Iannetta at first. First one in there for a strike.
He's that good downward plane with his fastball, Pomeranz. Though he can get wild. 49 and 3rd innings pitched, 20 walks.
Breaking ball outside.
Pretty solid as far as inherited base runners. Inherited 7, only 1 have scored.
Robertson 1 for 3 in his career against Pomeranz. Cole Calhoun on deck. One and 2.
Now for Robertson, you got to shorten up that swing now to make contact.
Mistake there by Pomeranz. A fastball up.
The boat was setting up in. It's one thing though. It's as a pitcher when you're setting up in like that. If you hit him with the base loaded, it's a run scored. You make a mistake in there, so you're more apt to let a pitch get out over the plate with the bases loaded, trying to sneak a fastball in. That's when you love to have that good, consistent secondary pitch here.
Yeah.
When you're on the mound.
One swing from tying it all up. Down low. 2 balls, 2 strikes. One with a breaking ball.
That sharp curveball he has. Nice block by Vogt. With a knuckle type curve. Blocked well by Vogt. Good communication by Robertson to tell Givitella that ball's in front of Vogt.
Outfield playing shallow. Robertson takes upstairs. Full count. Mujica is ready to go. Sure. If he doesn't come in for Calhoun, he'll definitely come in for Trout. After Cole. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Nobody out here in the 7th. 1 run in.
That's 20 walks, Victor, and 49 in the 3rd. Try to aim it.
Payoff pitch down low, and he walked him. So it is 7-4 now. 3rd walk in the inning. Robertson gets credited with an RBI.
Now batting.
This inning gets real interesting now. You got Cole, very solid against left-handed pitching. And you got Mike Trout on deck. I would like to see Bob Melvin go back to the bullpen, especially Albert Pujols behind him.
Calhoun 0 for 3 tonight. He will look at a breaking ball low. So now you've got Joyce at 3rd, Iannetta at 2nd, and Robertson at 1st. Robertson, the tying run. Looking fastball, got it, comes up empty, 1-1.
In a zone where he can do some damage to that baseball, but that had a little extra zip on it at 93. But I like that swing from Cole.
One and two.
Paints the outside corner at 94.
Cole 2 for 4 in his career against Pomeranz. And he struck him out with a high fastball. One down.
Went upstairs really on all the fastballs after falling behind on a breaking ball first pitch. High fastball, 94, swing and miss.
And with Trout coming up, Bob Melvin's going out to the mound. And it'll be Edward Mujica coming on to relief. Pomeranz is done as he issues a walk and gets the strikeout. One out here, the seventh base is still loaded. The Angels trailing at 7-4. The 4 Oakland, bases loaded and one out. Trout at the plate. Mujica, reactivated off the disabled list today, was on the DL because of a broken bone in his right thumb, fractured thumb.
Mujica fastball, 88, 93 slider, split finger fastball. There's a lot of split finger fastballs, which generally makes you believe that it should be a good matchup for Trout because everything's going to be down in the strike zone.
Trout, no official at bats against Mujica. Mujica delivers a strike. 6th game as a member of the Athletics. 1-0 record. 5 1/3 innings, 3 hits, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk. One ball, 1 strike.
Is that split?
Trout has a walk against the right-hander.
It was interesting that first pitch. Vogt was setting up the target high because he knows Mujica is a guy that's going to be generally down in the strike zone, which plays into Mike Trout's swing.
1-1. 1-2. Mike tonight 0 for 3. A strikeout, a fly ball to center, and a ground ball to third. Time is called. He could pitch in 11 games with Boston this year. It had a 4.61 ERA. He was designated for assignment on May the 8th. Oakland worked out a deal for him a couple of days later. The 1-2. Trout has got a piece of it, keeps the at-bat alive.
And that split finger fastball was a mistake. Might see this split finger fastball in the dirt. Maybe compensate for making a mistake with the pitch before.
The Angels have youngster Trevor Gott getting ready in their bullpen. Another 1-2. And Trout drives one out to left field. Zobrist is going to get it off and scrub. It'll fall in there. One run comes in. And so it is 7-5. Almost looked like Zobrist got turned around a little bit. And at the last minute reached up for it. Had it, and then it popped out.
Certainly was hit hard by Trout. Again, thought that'd be a good matchup. That pitch was down and a rocket. He's going to end up getting a sacrifice flying on in at E7.
Yeah, so no official at bat.
So he gets an RBI. He's 41st. And fooled on that. More of a top hand spin on that one. His job of getting back to the base for Joyce.
So they're still loaded with one out. Linette at third now. Robertson at second. Trout at first. Albert taps the first one foul.
And the Angels much better this year with the bases loaded as far as the batting average. Last year struggled. This year much more consistent.
Albert in his career 2 for 8 against Mojica. Longtime teammate with the St. Louis Cardinals. The 0-1. Side. 1 ball, 1 strike. 7-5. 2 big runs in the bottom of the 6th.
And look at that difference this year as far as the bases loaded. 365 batting average was his 4th best in baseball. Last year struggled. 231. Big opportunity for Pujols.
Albert drives one into the left field corner. This one is gone. Big fly for Albert Pujols. Clears the bases. And the Angels lead it 9-7.
That foul pole may be bent. That ball was crushed by Pujols. Grand slam time by Albert. And he's pretty pumped up about it also. Talked about those batting average with the bases loaded. What a difference. Look at that. Look at that dugout going nuts there with that rocket by Albert. 20th home run for Albert Pujols, leading the American League in that category.
Huh. 540th career home run as David Freese cuts through that one.
I just wondered if that foul pole still standing. Hanging split. Didn't even hit the foul pole, hit the wall behind it.
Yeah.
What a rocket.
A 7-run 7th.
It was hit so hard it couldn't go foul. It couldn't hook. '13th career grand slam for the machine. And what do we say? Get to that bullpen. Although Sonny Gray with 2 leadoff walks in this inning didn't help.
He opened it up. And then Joyce with a base hit. Inetta with a single. That chased Sonny Gray. And then Drew Pomeranz walked in a run. Freese goes down swinging, 2 outs.
This baseball took about no time to get out. Pujols got about 1 or 2 steps out of the batter's box and it was out. how quick. Albert, inner half of the plate. His bat speed is outstanding. Remember, we talked about it yesterday, what Tony La Russa said about Albert. He's using that lower part of his body to generate the bat speed. Well, you saw some tremendous bat speed there.
Ibar skies it foul and out of play. 4 of these 7 runs charged to Sonny Gray. So he gave up 6, 5 earned in 6 innings. Pomeranz charged with a run. The other 2 belonging to Mojica. Ibar trying to bunt his way on. Mojica barehands it, fires it away from Ike Davis and toward the bullpen. Ibar might just keep on running, and he will slam on the brakes now as the ball is near the mound and is cut off by Simeon.
He did a nice job of tracking that baseball down in that corner, well backed up by Sogard also.
That's a hit and an error. The second error of the inning for Oakland.
And that right down the third base line, and a difficult throw for Mojica using the bare hand, but that throw is going right at the runner. No chance to get him down the line, and Eric sees that. He's able to look back to see exactly where Sogard was. Otherwise, he'd be at third base.
Seven to 2 coming into the 7th inning. Now Bob Melvin's going to make a move. It seems like he's coming back out. This will be the 4th pitcher used by Melvin in the 7th. If indeed he is going to the pen. Giavotella is due up. This looks like a stall tactic. And there it is, the call to the bullpen. So a pitching change. Albert Pujols with 1 swing of the bat, putting the Angels in the lead. And it's the first go-ahead grand slam for Albert since July 3rd of 2009.
That was a rocket.
The Angels on top by the score of 9-7, still in the 7th inning.
Driving in 4 runs, giving him now 41 RBI. Trout with an RBI in that inning also gives him 41. So both at 41 RBI, if my math is right.
3 errors tonight committed by Oakland, 2 of which occurred here in the 7th, and one a big one. The one by Ben Zobrist left as Evan Scribner takes over. His 34th game, 2-1 record at 3.28 ERA, facing Johnny Giavotella with Ibar standing at second. Sonny Gray not allowed more than 4 earned runs at a start since September 2nd of last year. A stretch of 19 outings.
Well, we've been talking before the game. Eventually, when you pitch so well against a team in the same season, eventually you're going to have one of those games in which you just don't have command, and he didn't have command.
But even with that said, the Angels never really jumped on him, exposed him, because he did struggle there. The first 4 innings was kind of a tough go for the Angels offense, even though Gray did not throw the ball exceptionally well. 2 runs, 1 earned. But until this 7th inning, when he opened up the inning with back-to-back walks, and again, we were both stunned at Melvin.
Yeah, I think
left him in there.
There's going to be some questions to Bob Melvin after the game about why he did it. He'll say, well, look at what our bullpen has done if you're on the Oakland A's. And their defense, again, has let them down. And it's let them down this entire season. Their bullpen and their defense. 68 errors this year, most by any team in baseball. Rangers just second behind him at 56.
Giavotella shoots one down the right field line, but it slices foul. So Trevor Gott, working in the Angels' pen, will come on in the bottom of the 7th.
So they're swinging the bats well, and their starting pitching has been solid. But their bullpen, inconsistent, and the defense has really struggled. That's the reason why they are the way they are this year, 11 games under 500.
Ibar takes off, and a spin move and a dropped ball by Brett Lawrie, what should have been the 3rd out.
Should get a stolen base on that one.
Error on Brett Lawrie.
Well, the thing is, you can't assume he's going to make a tag on that. I don't know if you can give him an error on that ball, especially as he's going. Now, if he's in a rundown, yes.
Well, they're calling it an error. That's the 4th error and the 69th committed by Oakland this year. This is the 70th game for Oakland. Two. Base hit up the middle. And another RBI for Johnny Giavotella. 10-7 Halos.
3 RBI night for Johnny G. A big add-on run. You always need to add on runs here in Oakland. We've seen them over the years try to come back in games. Simple approach. Talked about that as a key tonight. Good approach by Giavotella right back up the middle. Giavotella, high energy guy. Emotional. Tell you what, this dugout has been moving around. They've been pumped up this inning.
Joyce with a single and an RBI in the 7th inning. 2 balls and a strike. Zobrist committing an error. That was on the ball that Trout hit. A rocket itself. And Joyce this one in foul territory. Brett Lawrie racing over. And we'll make the play. Boy, that's not
you hope he's all right.
Out.
That's a difficult play. It's good concentration by Brett Lawrie to catch that baseball, especially when you run on the mound. You have the incline.
8 run, 7th inning, 10-7 Halos.
run, top of the inning, putting the Angels on top by 3. New left fielder Daniel Robertson stays in the game. He pinch hit for Efren Navarro and drew the bases loaded walk and eventually scored. And it's the youngster Trevor Gott on the mound now. He takes over for Fernando Salas, who threw 1/3 of an inning, finished off the 6th. He threw 1 pitch, and he's now the pitcher of record
of baseball.
Yep.
Trevor Gott with that nasty moving fastball that he has. Good curveball too. Just got to stay back on his curveball a little bit more so, under control. Nice long conversation with him today in the pregame show about who he talks to down in that bullpen as he prepares to get in the game. He credits Joe Smith at Houston Street a lot.
He comes in to face Reddick, Butler, and Davis here in the 7th. Incredible turn of events. The way the top of the 7th unfolded against the unlikeliest of guys on the mound. A guy that really kept the Angels in check at Sonny Gray. But we talked about it. We just have not seen that consistency from the lineup 1 through 9, and they put it together in that 7th inning. Ground ball to left side. Freeze with a dive. Gets up. Fires to first. Got him.
What a play. Good range for Freeze and a strong throw. First base. I'll tell you what, I love the emotion we saw in the dugout, and they're carrying it into the field right here. Good range, dives, gets up quickly, and a perfect throw to the first base to get Reddick.
Now batting designated hitter, number 16, Billy Butler.
That's a good curveball from Trevor. It's a good miss. Got just out the outside corner. What that does to a hitter, especially something that close, to force you maybe to go out and chase something in that same spot.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Butler 1 for 3 with a single back in the 3rd.
I think with this lead right now, if you're Trevor Gott with that fastball, trust movement, challenge him with a fastball. Nice job by the youngster there, going right after a very good fastball hitter. Billy Butler gets a pop-up in the infield.
Now batting first baseman, number 17, Ike Davis.
Davis takes outside. 0 for 3. 3 ground ball outs. Got the product. The University of Kentucky came over with Houston Street from the Padres last year. There's Houston. Two balls, 1 strike. Two on now. just off the plate. 3-1 count.
Yeah, once Trevor gets more confident in the major league level, he's going to start that ball in the middle part of the plate and trust that movement to the outer part of the plate. When you start on the outside corner, it's tough to get a call.
Got the inside corner, full count. Back up the middle, it's base hit. Unable to get there. 2-out single. Keeps the inning alive for Brett Laurie. Hey, follow the Angels all season long with MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball. At bat is up to the moment at any moment with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcast, statcast, and more. Get MLB.com at bat for your smartphone or tablet today. No balls and a strike on Brett Laurie. 2 for 3 game with a couple of singles.
Big breaking ball at 78 miles an hour. Got trying to get through this inning, finish it off. Joe Smith more likely to be ready for that 8th inning. That is some pass. Well, we said he looks a lot like Scott Shields with movement. He don't remember him at all, but I'll tell you what, that number and that arm movement looks just like him.
7 complete. Halos on top, 10-7.
The 7th inning, 10-7 over the A's as we head into the 8th inning. I'm Alex Curry, and make sure you stick around after the game for Angels Live with Jose Mota and myself. We'll take a look at the Angels' offensive explosion in that 7th inning. Albert Pujols' first go-ahead grand slam since 2009. And then after the post-game show, stick around for an all-new Angels Live. This show is all about Dad as the players share some of their favorite childhood memories with their fathers. Victor?
And Albert Pujols with that big swing. What a shot he hit. The grand slam. Mentioned that, Alex. What a shot that was. They give the Halos the lead.
Chris Iannetta facing Eric O'Flaherty. Takes a breaking ball for a strike. Iannetta, Robertson, and Calhoun. O'Flaherty taking over for Evan Scribner. They got the final out. 12th game, 0-2 record, 8.38 ERA. Iannetta pulls one to left, a base hit. 2 for 4 game for Chris.
It's good to see from Chris once again. Starting to square up some baseballs.
Now batting, number 44, Daniel Robertson.
Always looking to add on in this ballpark. Robertson had a good at bat coming in, pinch hitting for Efren Navarro, worked a walk.
Robertson with that base loaded walk, picking up the RBIs first as an Angel. Takes low. Sonny Gray charged with 6 runs, 5 earned. Pomeranz 1 run in 1/3 of an inning. Mojica gave up 3 runs, 1 earned in 1/3 of an inning. Scribner did not allow a run. 3 errors by Oakland in that 7th. Way inside, 2 balls and a strike. Joe Smith getting ready for the Angels. We'll have 8, 9, and 1 coming up in the 8th. That is a foul ball.
Very difficult to bunt. High pitch. Fastball. Try to square around a little bit earlier and keep that bat level, even if it's a high pitch. That was going to get the upper part of the strike zone.
Two now. Did not go. Full count. Calhoun on deck.
Iannetta will be going. A 3-2 count.
Ground ball towards second. Sogard flips it to Simeon. And the relay back, a double play.
Pretty quick turn by Sogard. Simeon. Back flip.
So 2 outs, the base is clear for Cole.
Number 56, Cole Calhoun.
Calhoun 0 for 4 with a couple of strikeouts, a ground out, a fly ball to center.
As soon as Iannetta came back into the dugout, everyone came over and slapped him on the back. Back-to-back games for 2 for 4 efforts for Iannetta, 4 for his last 8.
Cole bounces this with a Davis foot race, and O'Flaherty beats him to the bag. We'll head to the bottom of the 8th inning here at the Coliseum. Joe Smith coming on to relief. Halos up 10-7. Eric Sogard, Marcus Simeon, and Burns coming up to face Joe Smith. Beautiful shot of the moon on a gorgeous night. And over 25,000 here in attendance. Good crowd for fireworks after the ball game, and stunned with the way the seventh inning unfolded against the home team. 8 runs, the Angels taking that lead. Trevor Gott went 1 inning, gave up a hit, had 1 strikeout. Now it's Joe Smith pitching in his 29th game.
Joe with that good power sinker, a good swing and miss slider also. 29th game, you mentioned that, Victor. Good ERA.
Eric Sogard 0 for 3 with a ground out, a fly ball to center, to strikeout.
These fans are certainly creative up here in Oakland. Nerd Power signed up for Sogard.
Joe last pitched on Tuesday, went 1 inning in the game against the Diamondbacks. Which Houston Street picked up his 20th save. Run that 2-seamer back. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Running fastball. Joe definitely wanted that pitch. Look, it got the inside corner.
Full count.
Back in the same spot. Further in though, that one.
Foul off. 10 runs. 9 hits, no errors. The Angels have left 4 men on base. Oakland with 7 runs, 11 hits, have committed 4 errors. They have stranded 6. And it's a leadoff walk to strike the bottom of the 8th. Take a look at the American League scoreboard. Houston lost to Seattle. Reyes Elias pitched pretty well for the Mariners. 5-2 the final there. Texas was trailing that game 1-0. They battled back in the 9th inning to score 2. They win over the White Sox. So Alex Rodriguez got a 3,000th career hit off Justin Verlander. Did so in grand fashion with a home run. Come back into the mound. Joe fires it to Giavitello, rips the baseball right over to Pujols for a double play. Well, he fired that thing over there.
Yeah, if you're a youngster at home, this is a textbook as far as what you do as a pitcher when you get a ground ball back to you. Perfect position to field the ball. Have your body turned in a perfect feed to Featherston, who throws an absolute missile to first base. Featherston has some kind of arm. But perfect throughout on that double play. Great feed by Joe Smith. Exactly where you want to throw that ball. Looked like he tried to attempt to bunt that baseball.
He has 3 infield singles in tonight's game. He leads the league with 19 infield base hits.
See all 4 at bats. The baseball has not left the infield dirt.
This one out to left field. Robertson was playing shallow, has to hustle back, makes the catch, and that's a 3rd out. We head to the 9th. Halos have Trout, Pujols, and Freese coming up at 10-7. O'Flaherty is still out on the mound. He pitched the 8th inning. He's scheduled to face Trout, Pujols, and Freese here in the 9th inning. Right now, as it stands, Fernando Salas is the pitcher record for the Angels. He came into the 6th inning. Remember, that was the inning in which Jose Alvarez struck out the first 2 batters, then walked Simeon, gave up the infield base hit to Burns, and then the 2 RBI double to Vogt.
Los Angeles. Number 27.
Salas came in.
Trout.
Finished the 6th inning. Trevor Gott pitches 7th. Smith the 8th. Houston Street getting ready for the 9th. As Trout steps into the batter's box. He's 0 for 3. Was credited with a sac fly and an RBI in the 7th on the ball that Zobrist eventually dropped. Zobrist got charged with an error himself, his 3rd of the year. 4 errors committed by Oakland tonight. Trout drives into the alley in right center field. Burns got a good jump on it, not going to get there though. One hopper off the fence. It's an easy double for Trout to lead off this 9th inning, his 16th double of the season.
Now we're back in the 7th inning with the bases loaded. Mistakes, split finger fastball, and he crushed that. That ball took no time to get out of the ballpark. Pumped up, coming into the dugout. One of the most emotional times you're going to see from Albert. What a shot he hit. 20th home run, 41 RBI on the season.
A couple of very good plate appearances throughout that 7th inning, setting up Pujols' slam. He was the 8th man to bat in that inning. One ball, no strikes. Albert 1 for 4 with that grand slam. 20th of the year. Now with 41 runs batted in, he and Trout are tied for the RBI lead as far as the Angels team is concerned.
How about Trout's last 2 at bats? A rocket to left and a sac fly ended up being an error on Zobrist, and then that rocket to right center field for a double.
That is a base hit, if not more, down the line. Trout will come in to score. Pujols on his way to 2nd. It's a 5 RBI game for Albert as he picks up his 10th double.
Well, it looks like a rocket to right field. You talk about both lines in this game. A grand slam down the left field line, now a double down the right field line for Pujols. Got jammed. That man is strong. The machine is on a roll.
Let me rephrase. Albert Pujols now the team leader in runs batted in with 42. And here's Freese. Angel third baseman 1 for 3. A 3 RBI game from Johnny Giavotella and a 5 RBI game for Albert Pujols. The unlikeliest of pairs.
Well, that side of the infield at least to start the game.
Freese chops it foul.
2 middle infielders hit home runs yesterday in the same inning. We talked about that in the opening. Big game for Johnny Giavotella. And some good balance once again. We talked about that in the opening as far as some balance in the lineup.
Bouncer up the middle. Sogard has it. Freese thrown out for the first out. Pujols over to third.
And now it's time for In the Driver's Seat, brought to you by Kia. Speaking of Albert Pujols, big game for him. Grand slam in the 7th inning gave the Angels a 9-7 lead. First grand slam with the Angels' 13th of his career. Also mixed in an RBI double this inning.
Infield in with 1 out. Ibar with a bunt base hit in the 7th. 1 for 3 game. Cesar Ramos now getting ready as well. No longer a save situation. That is a fair ball inside the line. Just like Pujols'. An RBI double makes it 12-7.
Boy, double figures in hits for the Angels this game. The A's had 9 straight games without giving double-figure hits in a game. It's right down the line once again, just inside that base. An RBI double for Eric Ibar. It's 9th double. 2 hits in this game for Ibar. A couple runs scored.
Half of the hits, extra base hits for the Angels.
Albert with 3 runs scored tonight.
One out, and Taylor Featherston. See his first plate appearance. His first big league home run yesterday against the Diamondbacks. Even 100 batting average, 4 for 40 this year. A couple of doubles, 3 RBIs. Now Street is no longer loosening, so it'll be Ramos at the bottom of the ninth. Bouncer off the plate, rolls foul. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Taylor was still pretty pumped up about that home run yesterday. Talked to him today about it. First major league home run. Speaking of home runs, there's a lot there in Albert Pujols. The season he is having. Definitely deserves to be an all-star.
2 balls and a strike. Full count now. Against Oakland, the Angels in their history have had 6 come from behind wins when they've been down by 5 or more runs. They've only done it once here. That was May 26, 1971. This would be the second, should the score hold. There's a walk.
Wasn't that the year Vita Blue won the MVP and Cy Young?
Yeah. Here comes Bob Melvin. He'll make another visit here, and that'll be the hook with him. The second of the inning, so Flaherty is done here, and they're going to go to the bullpen. Pitching change. We're in the 9th. 12-7 Halos.
pitcher for the Oakland A's. Fastballs 88 to 92. Cut fastball, curveball, changeup. 27th game this year. 0-2 mark as far as record. ERA 5.40. Very good last year for the Oakland A's. 1.57 ERA in 69 games. That's struggled this year.
He has. He's been one of the guys that, dare I say, hurt the bullpen for Oakland because they counted on Fernando to be one of the guys that was a stopper leading up to the end of the game.
And he hasn't hurt 29 runners, 10 have scored.
Well, he's got Ibar at second base and Featherston at first. Matt Joyce at the plate. Flaherty responsible for both base runners. He's already been charged with 2 runs. Matt tonight 1 for 4. Had an RBI single in the 7th. Three balls and no strikes.
Just 4 walks in 16 2/3 for Abad, but he's given up 5 home runs.
There's a 4-pitch walk, and they're loaded up. Almost tentative, really appears like right now.
This year, no
Yeah,
question.
this year, yeah. Last year it seemed like
He just went right after you.
absolutely.
Like everybody out of the bullpen. And we've always talked about the way Oakland has pitched, whether relievers, starters, or even their minor league. It's all about going right after the hitters with fastballs and using your changeup, working quickly, and throwing a lot of strikes. That has not been the case, especially out of their bullpen. Starters, yes. Bullpen, no this year.
Inetta swinging a miss, 2 for 4 tonight. And while they've missed their closer, Sean Doolittle, it hasn't just been that role that's been the issue. It's been any guy that's been called upon by Bob Melvin.
And
One ball and strike.
remember we talked about that in the beginning part of the year. Bullpens are so, you just never know with bullpens. Some years, I mean, they're just lights out. You bring that same group back, and that same group can struggle. And it kind of has that carryover effect for the entire bullpen, and everyone starts to put pressure on themselves, and before long they're giving up a lot of leads and runs.
One ball, 2 strikes. Ibar at third, Featherston at second, Joyce at first. Got him with another off-speed pitch, 2 down.
68-mile-an-hour changeup. Very difficult as a hitter to stay back, turn over that circle changeup. It's a swing and miss.
Now batting, number 44, Daniel Robertson.
Here's Robertson, 3rd plate appearance. He came on in the 7th, walked at the base load in the 7th, and into a double play in the 8th inning. Oh, and 1. Robertson picked up an off-season deal with the Texas Rangers. 12-7 here in the 9th. This is popped up and headed toward the Angels dugout. Yawn. It's no ball, 2 strike count. 3 doubles in the inning. Trout led off with a double to right center. Pujols brought him in with a double down the line, down the first base line. And with the 1 out, Ibar followed suit with an RBI double down the right field line as well. 5 RBIs for Albert tonight. Robertson takes low on the changeup. 1-2.
He just recently passed the great late Ernie Banks as far as RBI on the RBI list all time recently.
Now 8 home runs shy of tying Mike Schmidt for 15th all time. That home run list. There's the RBI totals.
Tony Perez next up. Part of that big red machine. He was a machine, RBI machine over for Cincinnati.
2 balls and 2 strikes and 2 outs. Cesar Ramos was pitched the bottom of the 9th. Vogt, Zobrist, and Reddick were scheduled for Oakland. And that is foul tipped into the mid. The Angels will leave them loaded. They tack on 2 more as we head to the bottom of the 9th. Halos on top 12-7. In the bottom of the 9th inning, looking to make it to 2 in a row.
Some superheroes there.
Yeah. They're having a good time. That's all that matters.
Yes.
They got fireworks after the game. They saw some fireworks in the 7th for the Angels. 8 runs.
Lots of them.
On 5 hits. The capper, the grand slam by
Hitting
Albert.
off the bottom of the 9th inning for the Athletics.
Ramos pitching his 27th game. 2-0 record, 250 earned run average. Takes over here for Joe Smith. Pitched the scoreless 8th inning. Stephen Vogt, 2 for 3 tonight. Walk, a home run, and a 2 RBI double. 1 ball, no strikes.
A good game himself, 2 for 3 with a double. Solo shot, 3 RBI.
Two balls and 1 strike. Oh, lifts one. The shallow left. Ibar cutting across, calling for it. 1 down. We'll bring up Ben Zobrist.
Now batting left fielder, number 18.
Mark certainly has gotten his work in today as far as covering the ground on pop-ups. Also scored a couple runs, couple hits, and a walk for Eric tonight.
Zobrist, a 2-for-4 game. Homer in the first, doubled in the fifth. Two and one.
He had that quick swing in the first inning, 2 on. Batting from the left side against Matt Shoemaker.
This one lifted foul. 2 balls and 2 strikes now. Jed Weaver on the mound tomorrow afternoon. Garrett Richards will go Sunday afternoon. Two now. This is shot and caught by Featherston. It comes out of the glove, fires to first, got him. Nice play by Taylor. 2 down.
That's some tremendous range for Featherston. A dive, almost caught it in the air. Did not panic, especially with his strong throwing arm. That looked like for sure that's going to be a base hit. Knocks it down, gets up quickly, and fires a missile back over to Albert Pujols. Good range there for Featherston.
Reddick up with 2 outs and nobody on it. He will look at a strike. 1 out away of picking up the what seemed in the 7th inning an improbable win. It was 7-2.
And Sonny Gray on the mound.
Yeah. Zobrist 0 for 4. Pardon me, Reddick 0 for 4. No balls and 2 strikes. Win would put the Angels up 2 games over 500, and we pick up a game in the standings with Houston having lost earlier tonight. Texas won. Seattle won. 0-2. This is lifted in the air. Shallow left field. Ibar going out. Robertson coming in. Robertson with a diving catch. Light that baby up as the Angels pick up the victory. 12-7 the final tonight. Terrific diving catch by Daniel Robertson.
2 unbelievable defensive plays. First by Featherston, then Danielson. You don't even see him in your picture until now. Dives and makes an unreal catch to finish off this improbable game, like you said, Victor, coming back with 8 runs in the 7th inning.
With 1 Angels home run hit in today's game, a total of $12,500 was raised for prostate cancer research. To make a donation, you can go online to homerunchallenge.org. What a way to finish this ball game. The